Good afternoon. Welcome to Keeping It Real with Mary. And today is the 18th of October, 2020. Yes, today we're supposed to be having one of our favorite cricketers, Vasbert, the special guest. And we are actually going to be talking at the crease. However, Vasbert had to attend to a matter this afternoon, but we are still going to be having Joelle Manning with us. Of course, we are aware that Charles Thorne, who joined us, is presently on the new job. Oh, exciting, isn't it? However, we decided we will continue with our show because we understand that it's quite informative, and those individuals who like to follow us like to hear what's going on. So today we're going to touch on a matter before our guest joins us on regards to the update with the coronavirus. Um, the update we were given is that we now have 119 deaths. So those numbers have actually gone up. 119 deaths, three more deaths who died from the COVID-19 on Saturday, October the 16th. A 6-year-old female who died in primary isolation at Harrison's Point Isolation Facility, and two individuals, a 69-year-old male and a 74-year-old female, died at the Accident and Emergency Department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. They were all unvaccinated. This brings the total number of deaths from the viral illness to 119 persons. Sad to say that we are asking individuals to please continue to get vaccinated. The vaccine schedule for today, they have a schedule each day, but most of the time, those persons who are interested in getting the vaccine, they can always visit the GIS Barbados website, gisbarbados.gov.bb, to get any information regarding the vaccination centers, and of course, those community centers that are taking part with the vaccination program. They now have the mobile bus, and the mobile bus goes at different areas. So it's important that you get those details and the various types of vaccines that are being offered will be the AstraZeneca, the Sinopharm, and the Pfizer vaccine. Those individuals between the ages of 12 to 18 are welcome to get their parents with them, of course, to go and get the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, which is for children, and those older have an option to have either of the three that are available here on the island. Something that I want to touch on, though, we seem to be having some challenges with some people who don't, the mental health aspect that's happening in Barbados in regards to individuals who might be having some challenges. um, there is a video that is being transmitted throughout social media with a parent who is strangling a young child. Now, if anyone wants to make mention of this, I think they definitely would have to say that if they receive such details, should be reported to the appropriate authorities, that being the police and the child care board, because we don't want to see anybody treating a child so young in such a manner with things like that. It's not anything that we um, condone. And it's very sad to see that the individual may be going through some difficult challenges, and they're striking out in the wrong way at the wrong person, a child. Um, we hope that this matter is looked at and that the authorities have found the individual and are certainly looking into it and seeing how they can assist both the child and the mother who um, might be having some issues there that we do not want to see go any further than where it is at. We want to recognize that in the US, there are persons mourning the passing of General Colin Powell. He is, we would have to say, um, part Caribbean. His parents were migrants from Jamaica, and he had over 35 years in the military in the US and came from the Bronx area. And we understand that he passed away at the age of 84, and he was fully vaccinated, but he passed away from COVID-19 complications. And we want to extend our condolences to the family of General Colin Powell, who would have made his contribution to the military over the years and would have served under the former president, George W. Bush, in deal with the security aspect of the country in the U.S. It's very sad to see someone like him pass away, and that were very instrumental to the United States of America. On another note, we want to remind those individuals out there who may think that the rate, I'm going back to the COVID-19 because something came to our attention where individuals don't seem to realize that the government has made an implementation on curfew. Curfew is at 9 p.m. in Barbados and finishes at 5 a.m. in the morning, which permits individuals to move around freely, of course, once they're keeping to the um, protocols, sanitize, wear your mask, social distance. And if you don't have anywhere to go, we ask that you remain indoors. Now, there are some areas within Barbados, which I would have to say close to me, where individuals are flouting the law, where the implementation of a curfew seems to be disregarded, and they're not understanding the purpose of a curfew at 9 p.m. All into the night, you would hear vehicles passing, people walking outside in the community, and you're wondering, but isn't there a curfew at 9 p.m.? Why are individuals moving around and doing their own thing? So we want to remind individuals that the curfew was extended. And having the curfew extended means that you must adhere to the times that were set by the government. This is to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. Now, if persons don't understand what a curfew is, it's a time where individuals have been given to be able to move around freely, but at the same time, you have to be indoors at a specific time. And that is from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. So we implore those individuals out there to adhere to the curfew which has been set by the government of Barbados. Also, individuals have been asking, and we're going to hopefully have someone on that can enlighten us a bit more for those who may not understand. When individuals have been tested, now, testing that is going on is only done at three institutions. Contact tracing is not done at the Winston Scott Polyclinic. It is not done there at all. Persons who have to be tested would need to go to the gymnasium. They also need to go to Warren's as well as Black Rock Polyclinic. Those are the three venues where you go for contact tracing, not Winston Scott Polyclinic. So folks out there, just remember the three institutions. The Warren's Polyclinic, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, Black Rock Polyclinic, and the gymnasium. These are the three areas where you can go to have your tests. And we implore you that if you have to, call these institutions, set up an appointment, and they ask you to arrive 30 minutes before, 30 minutes before you get your test done. So it's important that you work with the medical fraternity because they're working there for us. They've been on the front line very long. And we're asking you, we implore you to please, please help us to help you. So without further ado, we want to introduce this young man who denotes himself as a speaker and a presenter. He's a dear friend of mine. I hope he's hearing me. And he's, I don't know how to describe Joel. He's dapper, he's exquisite, unique. I don't know what other words to present for him, but he is quite a talented young man. And when I met him some years back, you saw a little spark that you never knew that would brighten so big, and that is Joel Manning. So let me bring him in, and I'm sure that we'll be able to learn a little bit more about him and get into the topic of one of our favorite sports, cricket. Good afternoon, Joel.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Lovely, lovely. I was trying to get my headphones to connect, but for some reason, they're not connecting today. I don't know, something about technology.
Well, you know how it goes with technology. We have to learn around it.
It is true.
We definitely have to learn around it. Well, I'm sad to say that one of my guests suddenly could not make it. Who you would, I think you might have had a chance to have a little knock with him. I could be wrong. And that is our famous Mr. Vasbert drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he had another appointment that might have clashed with what we were doing this afternoon. But I'm sure you, as a professional presenter and speaker, will be able to fill in both seats, regardless of not having Mr. Drakes with us.
I guess we're about to find out.
Well, I would have spoken a little tidbit about you, not too much, because I want you to be able to tell the folks who are calling listening to a little bit more about yourself. So, as I said to them, I met you, I can't recall how many moons ago, but some time ago. And as I said, you had a spark about you, and it's actually shining quite a lot. And you know, we are like buddies. Even though we don't hug each other as often, we're still our buddies, and we must be hugging and thing, but we're still our buddies. Yeah. Now,
Definitely.
so folks learn a little bit about who Joel Mahan is. Tell us, and I usually start with the KP, meaning to say you're going from a little boy who would have been running around the area that we known as Bayland, and then you go up to Sky High School, etc. So start us off with a little bit.
All right, so a bit about myself. I like to say I'm just your everyday lad who lives and enjoys life. That is how I usually, like to frame myself. But in terms of from the beginning, um, as you mentioned before, I grew up in the Bayland. I went to People's Cathedral Primary School, and from there I ventured on to Queen's College. Yeah. After that, I went on to UE, did my bachelor's and a master's there, and then journeyed off to the UK, where I did another master's in sports journalism. And I guess all of that has brought me to where I am today, where I am now, where I'm heavily involved in sports and sports media.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, in regards to your coming up through school, one of the things we highlight about our guests, because the importance of where you start from is a foundation. Now, you started at People's Cathedral and then went on to Queen's College. We've had some of your alma maters on with us already, and I think one might have been Shanta Prince. Is it right? Shanta Prince. Um, what was your experience going to school there?
My experience at Queen's College, um, I don't think it really be put into words. It was honestly one of the most memorable, one of the most enjoyable experiences that I have had thus far in this short space of time that I've been on the earth. I spent 7 years there. So it was, yeah, first form to upper six. And honestly, it was an environment where I was able to learn and grow and have a lot of fun because honestly, I'm not somebody who genuinely enjoys schoolwork. I more so enjoy school because of the liming and the activities that come with it.
Yes.
So that aspect of it, trust me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. My teachers occasionally put me out because of it, but it was an experience that I will never forget. And if I could go back there in a heartbeat, I would.
Wonderful. Most of us would. And I know, like I would. Now, having been at school, what would you say to someone who come within our environment in terms of when some people talk about our environment? Meaning to say, because people say, when they hear the land or builder, they go like, oh, okay. And then when they hear Queen's College, you, oh, what's your expression or your thought to another individual who are from our area, young children who want to excel? What would be your advice to them when they're going to school? Because now it's COVID. The whole thing online is challenging. So you know their aspirations might dim a little bit, but they try their best to put their foot forward. And they come from this area and they go to Queen's College or they go to Foundation or they go to Springer or they go to any school. But the caliber in society, Queen's College is a great school. So regardless of that aspect, how would you advise young ones now what to do, how to aspire as they go on from primary to secondary school?
In terms of advice that I could offer, first off the bat, don't get caught up simply on the premise that because you've grown up in a particular area, whether or not it be Bayland or anywhere, because you've grown up in a particular area means that you cannot achieve or it means that you can't succeed. That's just number one. And that doesn't necessarily go for school, that goes for everything in life. My mother always used to tell me that, your circumstances don't define you. So that is something that I would definitely say to anyone who's growing up in an area that people would look down on, or an area where people think that they cannot become someone. You becoming someone is literally up to you. And that is where I would say, in terms of putting your best foot forward, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you are attending Queen's College, but it simply means that it's about ensuring that anything you put your mind to, anything that you want to achieve, you go after it, whether or not it is schoolwork, whether or not it is something in a technical field, whether or not it's something as simple as reading a book, because people think it has to be something big. It is simply about ensuring that whatever you put your mind to, you go after. There's a quote that I have at the bottom of all of my emails, which says, "The mind is only a barrier between success and the ability to achieve." And that goes for anyone living anywhere. So, what I would say is that do not look at where you are and think that that is the only place that you will be in this world. That might be your starting point, but that is not where you will end. Where you end is up to you. So as long as you put the right steps in place, and the right steps might be thinking about the company that you keep around you as well, because it's not always about doing the work and that kind of stuff, but it's also about who you have around you as well. So I would say, think about where you want to go in life and start to put those little things in place. Something as simple as your friends, something as simple as, doing your homework before you head out and play, all those little small things.
Mm-hmm.
But bottom line, do not let where your start point is
Mm-hmm.
be where your end point is if you know that you want something more for yourself.
Amen. Well, you sound as if you're preaching to me, boy. I enjoyed what you said, and it made a lot of sense, to be honest. And it coming from a young individual such as yourself, because I know you're 16, 20 plus, but it says that you have a head on your shoulder and you've aspired so far in the position that you're in. Now, that's diverse enough to maybe something that we both would love. And growing up in Woodland, you're so close to one of the most popular club in Barbados, that being the YMPC.
Yep.
Tell us us now how you got involved in that sport.
Alrighty, so coming up, I actually used to swim first. That was the first sport that I got involved in. But me playing at YMPC is actually a very interesting story. So I was actually playing cricket in front of my house with my cousin, I believe, at the time. And then there was this young guy that walked past us playing cricket, started to play cricket with us. And I said, yo, why don't you come and just join the club? And funny enough, I actually did not even know that the club was there or really thought much about the cricket club until that moment. So then I told my mother, and she said, yeah, sure, no problem. And then on Saturday mornings, I started going across to the YMPC junior program. And that's how I actually got involved. And I guess it just continued from there because I went from the juniors right up into the senior program.
And the juniors would have been manned by, would that be Mr. Wendell Coppin or was it by somebody else at the time?
At the time, the junior program was manned by a gentleman named Mr. Tull. He was the first person that I would have come into contact with at a YMPC. There were a couple others that were there. Actually, I think my headphones just connected. So let me pop them in here. Let me see if can you hear me still?
Yes, I can hear you.
Alrighty, perfect. So I can hear you a little better now too. So there we go.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going. So yeah, Mr. Tull, that was who was the person that was manning the program
Mm-hmm.
at the time at YMPC. Him being assisted by a couple others, and then into the senior program is when I would have met Wendell Coppin.
Okay. So what was it like working along Wendell Coppin and the likes of the others? Because now that means you've become part of the club. Because if you're in the junior program, that's where they try to groom you for going to the field of local, regional, quote, international cricket, so to speak. What was it like working with the likes of those individuals?
Honestly, it was a very funny experience because those guys obviously they have a lot of years of wisdom on me. So just hearing some of the quotes that they would say on the club steps, being in the dressing room with them, honestly, it is one of the most like I used to look forward to Saturdays just to be in the dressing room to hear these stories, to have the conversations, and just to rub shoulders with those guys. Mr. Coppin honestly is one of the funniest men I've come across in a cricket dressing room. So honestly, it's been an amazing experience just being able to be around them. I've certainly learned a lot, coming up from cricket, especially given that at the point in time that I was coming through, I was one of the youngest in the quote unquote seniors dressing room. So I really clung to all of the words that they were saying and the experiences, and it helped me through life as well.
Good. Now, having been around the likes of Wendell Coppin and the famous West Indian player Dwayne Smith, was there a form of camaraderie with you? Did you find that he set those goals, well, not those goals, but as example for you within the club setting for you, while he obviously would have ventured off into the international scene? What was it like for you playing along with him? Because he would have been a senior player at the time.
Initially, it was a bit of a starstruck moment because obviously, Dwayne Smith, the likes of Fidel Edwards, Shane Dowrich was coming up through the system then, Ryan Wiggins, these guys, they were all a part of the senior cricket setups at different points as I was coming through. And it was I would definitely say I learned a lot from them, especially in terms of hard work. Even guys like Christopher Jordan, who now plays for England, he would come back to the club as well, his breaks. And just being around them, you certainly got a sense of the work ethic that was required, not only for cricket, but even outside of life. Because obviously, like I said, being in dress room, you get a chance to have conversations, pick their brains, etc. And you certainly learned a lot in terms of life, but also in terms of cricket, in terms of wanting to aspire to greater things as well. Because like I said, they head off and you see them doing their thing. And even if you don't necessarily want to be at the highest level of cricket, you want to be at the highest level of something.
Yes.
And because of that, just being around them and seeing them on those stages, it caused you to want more for yourself also.
Right. Now, something that may buzz a little bit in my brain is this. I want to draw back a bit because my question is this. In playing with the likes of international players. You probably would have also played against people like Ian Bradshaw, Pedro Collins, Courtney Brown. Um, what type of education system for cricket does it present in Barbados, playing for clubs? Why I ask that is I want to take a step into the field that you're in now because you're obviously reporting on it, but because you've lived it and you've eaten it, what is it for players in the club at the lowest level before reaching that international level? Is it a school? What what do you graduate for or to in terms of um, being in a club setting?
All right, so so I'm exactly clear on what you're targeting here. You're asking if it's a case of like what is there after club cricket for cricketers in Barbados?
Yes. Well, if you're playing in a club, let me switch the question around. I think I might have gotten a little confused. If you're in your club, you play local cricket, then you play first division cricket. Local is first division, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you also have what's the other one? Premier division, the older
Alrighty.
guys.
All right, so all right, I think I get the gist of where you're going here. So in terms of the levels, obviously start in terms of let's go with a Barbados Cricket Association competition
Yes.
because that is the most popular one. So that's what we call our BCA competition, which happens every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts at your school level. So the first level or the entry level to your BCA competition is school cricket. From there, you will have second division cricket. So some school guys who are, I guess you would say, looking to move on in levels, they might go from playing school cricket and instead of playing for this school, they'll play second division cricket. After second division cricket, then you,
Second division is club.
yes, that is no club cricket, yeah.
Okay, good. Continue.
Yeah, so from second division cricket, then the next level after that is intermediate cricket, which is once again another level of club cricket, which are for players who are obviously somewhat. So your second division level, you will more so find a lot of the older guys who just want to enjoy cricket, have no aspirations for the most part of playing at the senior level.
Okay, that's
But
second
then
division.
after that, yeah, that's second division. So that's where you'll find a lot more of your older guys, and then probably a lot of schoolboys who are looking to kind of get an entry level into club cricket.
Okay.
After that, then you have your intermediate cricket, which is a step up, obviously, from second division. So you would have the competition be a bit tighter, and here you will also have guys who are hoping to break into what will be their first division sides, because at the time, it was a case of intermediate, then it was upper intermediate, then first division. But now it's gone from intermediate to first division, and now there's elite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the difference
So
between
after,
intermediate and the elite?
yeah, so after intermediate, then you head into first division.
Mm-hmm.
First division now is the second highest level of cricket or second highest level of club cricket in
Mm-hmm.
Barbados. And here's where you will have the players who are either in clubs who have been demoted from elite or clubs who have been promoted from intermediate. And these are the guys who are hoping then to play in top flight cricket, which is elite cricket in Barbados, the highest level of cricket.
Mm-hmm.
From there, in terms of elite, you have guys who head into trials, which is the Barbados senior trials. And that is with the hope of playing for the Barbados team, which is then regional cricket. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, you would then find yourself at a stage whereby you have a chance of entering into West Indies cricket.
Okay. Now you've given us all those levels. I'm glad you've listed them because the reason why I'm asking you this is on the premise that I go to play cricket and I want to get up there to play regional and international cricket. That means I should be continuing playing cricket every weekend, every day, if there's cricket every day, in order to better myself to get to the level of international cricket. That's correct?
Pretty much, yeah. Like anything else, you need to put in the work. So yeah, so in terms of cricket here in Barbados, your matches are played Saturdays and Sundays. But obviously, if you're a cricketer who is hoping to get to the next level, that certainly can't be it. So, for example, at YMPC, we practice Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're looking at top flight cricket, that is not enough. to get you there, because what is interesting is obviously that it is not a professional league here in Barbados, and as such, is a case whereby your training sessions are starting at about 3:30, 4 o'clock on an evening, and they'll run until the sun sets, maybe around 5:45, 6 o'clock. But for a cricketer who is looking to obviously develop past what is just playing club cricket in Barbados, is a case where you're gonna have to get up on mornings and obviously do some work before you probably head into work, maybe, unless you have a BCA contract. A case whereby you also put in the work on evenings a bit more than what will happen at the club level as well.
Now, you said something that really caught my attention in terms of individuals who want to make cricket as a professional sport. So, we have professional athletes
Mm-hmm.
who only do athletics, and that's their prime money making job. Now, if you want to become a cricketer, a professional cricketer, can that be done in Barbados? Are there the avenues in which you can be a professional cricketer in Barbados and be paid, or is it required that you have to go overseas to get that position?
Well, as it stands, yes, if you have a BCA contract. And that usually is for players who would find themselves playing in first division clubs and elite clubs. So the BCA has a set number of contracts that they hand out each year, and essentially those guys who would be considered professional cricketers, obviously they're paid to train and to be around the Barbados setup with the hopes of them making it into the Barbados team. But if you're talking on a larger scale, then no, not in the way that you will have in other countries, for example, like England and Australia, who they have teams or guys at what will be some of the lower levels who are also paid on weekends to play cricket. In some cases, it's not necessarily a massive amount of money, but it is still a payment nonetheless to show up and play cricket on Saturdays. But in Barbados, as it stands, no. However, there were talks at one point in time of a professional league being instituted in Barbados where players who played on weekends only would have been paid. I'm not sure where that is in the works, but on a larger scale, no. As it stands right now in Barbados, there's not a chance to be a professional cricketer outside of a BCA contract,
Wow.
at least to the best of my knowledge.
what what would you say? What was your position though? Were you bat or bowler? Which one were you? What was your
At YMPC, a wicketkeeper batsman.
oh Lord, like a bowl like you? Good.
a
Keeper batsman. What was your highest score as a batsman?
120 timed out.
You
Yes, timed
lie.
out. Yes.
You lie.
Nice years. Nice years. Nice years.
You lie. Anyhow, now my problem I have, I think Barbados has the talent, and I think we have always had. I mean, we got the serves to attest to it. We have the serves, and I know behind the scenes you would know me differently, but I have a passion for individuals such as yourself and others who are on the cricketing field. And my issues are that if you can't play the game, why quarrel with the player? If it ain't you're missing the catches, were you bowling too short, or were you play that short? So they're coming from different angles, and you know right now we are being tested in this sporting arena. I mean, we both know that not only has cricket been affected, all type of um, sporting activities have been affected. But Barbados' true love is cricket, and the challenges that they're having right now. One was being able to start back up, which as we all look across from last year, that we call home, and how does fitness play for a cricketer from this level to international level? Because I know you would have spoken to a lot of international cricketers. How would this array right now affect a cricketer who has not been able to, play a ball or bowl a ball
Hmm.
mentally?
The COVID period has certainly affected cricketers, not only in Barbados, but all around the world. Simply on the basis that, well, as you mentioned, the inability to train, especially at the intensity that you would have been accustomed to before this. Um, people look at sports like cricket and I think that is not necessarily one of the fittest sports, but that's actually quite a lie, especially when you look at it in terms of test level cricketer, etc. So from a fitness perspective, this is outside now of just simply batting and bowling, just pure fitness. You've seen cricketers having to get very creative. Funny enough, like every other sportsman for this period, getting very creative with their routines, especially their indoor routines, and a lot more responsibility has fallen now on the player to ensure that they remain fit. Because obviously, by going to your facilities, you have your fitness trainer there, you have your structured program, etc. And now it's become a case of if your trainer cannot virtually watch you, the responsibility now falls purely on your shoulders to ensure that you carry out your routine and that kind of stuff. So it certainly affected them from that aspect, but also in terms of the batting and bowling aspect. But even beyond that, from a game aspect, because the one thing that is always noticed that nothing can substitute for a match time. So it doesn't matter how much you actually practice in the next set or how much balls you hit, nothing can substitute for time in the middle. So you found that it has affected the players out in the middle as well. So you found that when they were now getting back into cricket, things were a bit scratchy at the start. But now that cricket is back again, players have found their way. The only challenge now that they're finding now is with the bubbles, which now presents an entirely new challenge for them from a very mental aspect.
I was about to ask you, what is bubble fatigue? A lot of people wondering, what's bubble fatigue? If I explain it in my mind, it might not sound right. So you explain it from a cricketer's perspective because
Mm.
I understand what it means. But if you could explain it differently as a sportsman, explain to the audience what is bubble fatigue.
It doesn't even need to be from a sports perspective. I don't really consider myself to be a sports. I didn't play top flight cricket. But not.
Play top flight cricket.
Yeah, yeah, but no.
I know I see you running and jumping and doing all kind of things. So don't fool the audience out there that you're not a sportsman because your physique speaks for itself. So I know what bubble fatigue is because you're a traveler. You do travel
Uh-huh.
extensively. So you know that there's some countries you might have had to bubble yourself. So I haven't gone anywhere for a while. So explain to individuals what a bubble is and what bubble fatigue can come to if you're traveling somewhere.
So in simple terms, a bubble is simply an imaginary cover that you cannot go outside of as a player, and outside of in the sense that you cannot have any interaction with a person who is technically outside of that imaginary covering that pretty much houses yourself, all of your players, all of your technical staff, your coaches, etc. So every person that's going to be a part of the match, whether from a media perspective or a player's perspective, are housed in one safe zone. And you simply cannot go outside of that safe zone without permission or interact with any person outside of that safe zone. No, bubble fatigue is simply put being sick and tired of being inside that safe zone. That's the best way to put it. That's literally bubble fatigue.
So if you were an international player, such as the ones we speak of, would you
Mm.
think would you think knowing that you're an outdoorsy person, you are a social person, I know you to be a social person, wouldn't you get bubble fatigue having to go from, place to place, place to place, and you know that every time you go, you gotta be in this, as you said, safe zone, and not really getting that interaction, or I would say human interaction, other than with your comrades within the team. Why would that be a problem? Because I'm hitting now somewhere where the news has broadcast that between the CPL and the IPL, one of our famous cricketer, the boss, Chris Gale, said he suffered from bubble fatigue and he wanted to rest because he was approaching the ICC T20. I didn't see anything wrong with that, but I found a lot of people were criticizing this, and my thing was it was mostly mental. And if you don't have your mental frame, because if you say you're a wicketkeeper batsman, I know that you're concentrating on how the bowler is going to bowl, and what he's going to bowl, and how he's going to bowl. And at the same time, when you have now to do a batting stance, you have to concentrate. So it's not just about playing the game, but it's being able to. It's a mind game, I suppose. So why criticize a human on that note, or is it that it's not in existence to have bubble fatigue?
Bubble fatigue actually is a very real thing from conversations I've had with a couple of guys. Initially you wanted to get back to cricket, you were happy to get back to cricket, but after a while, the manner in which you were forced to play cricket under was not necessarily conducive to the best type of cricket that you might want to play. Simply, let's begin with the crowds. When cricket first came back, there were no crowds, and there were some players who thrive on the energy of a crowd. So they found that their game was impacted. Then you have your players who like to interact outside of just their player zone. So you would, if you had a bad night, or I mean, sorry, a bad day on the cricket field, you had a break in between your matches. You might want to get out and just head to a bar, just relax and just de-stress like any other human after a hard day at work, and the inability to do that has also affected performances, So that, for example, let's go back now to Chris Gill. From Chris Gill's social media, we see Chris Gill as a very outgoing person, somebody who enjoys a night out, not in a bad way, but you get what I'm saying, somebody who enjoys just being outdoors, engaging, interacting, etc. He seems to have that type of personality. And from being locked down constantly, moves being watched, everything, it can certainly impact your game. At the same time, being somebody in media, I can understand why the press would kind of look to flip the switch on it, because at that particular point in time, he wasn't necessarily having the best performances. And you always have to question, is it a case of is it bubble fatigue, or is there something else that's impacting the game? So from a media perspective, I can understand why the questions are there, but the concept of bubble fatigue is certainly a very real one. And in a day and age where we're promoting mental health and these kind of things, I would have to accept when a player says, mentally I'm just not there right now. I simply cannot handle this anymore and I need a break. Chris Gill was one, and there were several other players coming through the tours that happened across this year and even at the end of last year who simply stepped away from cricket and put their mental health first or put their family first simply on the basis that they did not want to be in a bubble.
Well, for you, and as you said, you may not be as an international player, but I think that if I were in their shoes, I would probably be tired too because they're not traveling 2 to 3 hours. Um, some flight, sometimes they're flying for 24 hours. Knowing I'm from the travel industry, and if you're traveling for 24 hours, you know for yourself, you've been to England, 8 hour, 8.5 hours on a flight, and you're changing time zone. Your body now has to adjust to that as well. And we're not just talking about Dubai or Pakistan. Those places take you close to, well, in truth and in fact, they take you 24 hours. And then for your body now to take 24 hours to adjust to a new place, new time zone, new food, the whole works, that is more than bubble fatigue, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you haven't done it and you don't know what the experience is like, why talk about it? Or why criticize an individual along that line? Because you don't know what they're going through, not just mentally, but physically at the same time. I think it's very harsh to, you know, to pinpoint that. On in regards to that, I cannot speak on. Someone made mention to me about he, well, he commented on Sir Curtly Ambrose. I don't know what he said. I can't speak on that, but he came out. I don't want to say he attacked him and said he doesn't want to do anything or say anything with him or whatever. And as a reporter like yourself, when you're watching the game and you're watching the players and you sit down and listen to the type of team that they have now put together, with even the inclusion of Ravi Rampal, who only had 19 wickets in the CPL and has not played for a very long time, what is your view on the team that we're expected to play in about 48 hours? And
Um,
they lost their practice match today against Pakistan. So
Practice matches don't really come for me.
I know,
It is a
I
good
know.
indication of what can happen in a tournament, but at the same time, it's about trying to find the right mixes. Um, What can I say on the team? One thing that I will not do is criticize the team because mm, at the end of the day, any organization has to know for themselves what they want to achieve and who they believe are the best persons to achieve that particular goal.
Mm-hmm.
Because as it stands, there is no cricket board that wants to lose a World Cup. There's no cricketer that wants to score not, or rather get not. There's no cricketer that wants to get hit for six sixes. You know, at the end, nobody wants to fail. And as such, I cannot tell myself that Cricket West Indies have sabotaged themselves by picking the team that they've picked.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is that from an outsider's perspective, looking at the stats and that kind of stuff, you will have questions naturally about team selections. But then going back in now to the dressing room, you have a coach, you have your statisticians, you have people who are viewing the overall game and looking at the team balance.
Mm-hmm.
And to my mind, the team is selected based on the balance that they believe will work best, whether or not they're looking at it from a conditions perspective, which obviously that has to happen, whether or not they're looking at it from a matchups perspective. So you're looking at teams that you will have in your zone, and you're looking at the type of players that they are and who are your best bowlers to take those wickets, who are your best batsmen to score those runs. All these different angles coming to play to pick a team. Like I say, off the side, you can have your questions because all we're looking at is stats, performances, etc. But from an organizational perspective, like I say, I don't believe it's a case of Cricket West Indies are looking to sabotage themselves and not have a three-peat as it relates to the T20 World Cup, because that in itself is one, prize money, and two, one of the biggest media pushes you can ever have in your life. So with that said, if I could flip back quickly to the comments that you were mentioning with regards to the back and forth between Gail and so currently, from a media perspective, we have to have our angles. So sometimes our angles might be very critical, but I don't think that either of them are technically wrong in what is being said. From one angle, you have to question why are certain people being selected, but from a player perspective, it's like, yo, shut up though. Like I hear, let me do my job because I ain't come here to fail at the end of the day. So honestly, it's a very interesting back and forth. But I do not. Like I say, I have my questions about the team, but at the same time, I do not think it's a team that cannot win the World Cup, because any player in that side right now on their day can come off and do it. So yeah.
Well, the saying goes, the world eyes, or the eyes are on them, the world is on their eyes, something like that. I can't remember exactly
Hmm.
what it is, because a lot of people, I I was surprised to see Ravi Rampal, even in the CPL. That's the truth. But he showed that he can perform, and he also showed that he can put in the work at the same time. And he's been around quite a while. Now, you're in your 20s. You're 30 now, or
Oh
32?
no, I'm not 30 yet. I'm not 30 yet. Still in my
27?
20s.
You're 27?
28. I'm 28.
I knew it was 28, but I just wanted you to say it for yourself. I saw that. I read that. Now, why is it that people are said that they need to retire in cricket early? I've seen Sir Richie Richardson, Jimmy Adams, Stuart Williams, Junior Murray. These guys, personally, in England, still playing cricket, but I don't think they play it now. But they were in their 40s, 40 this, and I think, if I'm correct, the scale is 42. People are saying, oh, Ravi Rampal is too old. I think he's 37 or 38. Chris Gayle is too old. Why set an age on a person who can perform? Why only? Why would you take the old out to only put in the new without blending the two, so that the young can learn from the old? You understand what I mean? What is too old in the game of cricket?
Um, to be honest, I have no idea what too old is a case whereby you are no longer of use to the team that you're being selected for, even like a job. You know, you could still find somebody that's 70 walking around, and somebody will say that person is too old. But no, I think it comes down to one, a personal decision, and two, a decision by cricket board, because you, there's a level of respect that you have for players who have played for a certain amount of years and gotten you to where you are as a team. But at the same time, you know, you have youngsters knocking on the door who are, I would say, just as talented and can get the job done for you. So it's a very thin line that you ride with the concept of too old. In the case of Chris Gale, the reason why I think his age is coming up a lot more now is because he does not have the performances that back up why he is still in the side. Because if you look at the recent series in the West Indies, he wasn't in the best of form. IPL wasn't in the best of form. So the first thing that you can hit at is he is too old, you
Okay.
know, because naturally, if let's go to Hetmeyer, by far younger. When Hetmeyer is not performing, you look for something that you can pick at. So what you're going to talk about? You're going to talk about his weight. You know, you
Fitness. Yes.
yeah, you know, so there's always something that when somebody is not performing, when something is not going right, that you gravitate towards to say this is a reason why you are not performing. You know, so when you look at age, I don't think that there's ever a case. Well, there is a case where well, you could be too old because at 100, there's no reason why you should be playing a West Indies great team. You know, but in Gail's instance, I don't think it is that Gail is too old. It's just that Gail has somewhat hit a bit of a slump. And, you know,
Should
when you
rehab.
look at it,
Put up his back.
uh, not necessarily, you know, because like I said, there's still a level of respect that you have for these players. So, for example, if you flip over to a site like India with Mahendra Singh Dhoni, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, they ensured that they played him up until that time that he he was ready to call it quits
Yeah.
for cricket because they level respect. And the thing about it too is that at the international level, he too had a slump. And people were then saying, you know, Dhoni is too old to be playing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this type of cricket, etc. But that was not the case. Like any other player, you just have your ups, you have your downs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a case of how you come back from your downs, essentially. And the players that come back from their downs are the ones who are seen as the greats of the game. So really and truly, Chris Gill is now presented with a chance to bow out with grace at this World Cup because I believe that this will probably be the last time that we see him on the international stage. And that's also why I believe he is here in the West Indies side as well, you know, to allow him that chance to show one more time that he is Chris Gill, that everybody in the Caribbean has known to grow and love. So, yeah.
Yeah, my husband said that. Exactly what you just said. My husband said. He said this is his last year. That's why they called him up to be part of this team, even though, quote unquote, his performance has not been of the greatest, even from the CPL to the IPL. And I agree with what you're saying because at the end of the day, he still played a pivotal role in getting the West Indies team to two wins at the ICC T20. Um, in the likes of that, where we we may think the team might not be the best. We have the Hetmeyers and we have the now looked at Evan Lewis, because you know Evan really, really performed during the CPL. And we have young Kuran. I like the stability. For me, he shows stability. That's Kiram Pollard. Why I say stability, some people say he's too serious, he's too stuck up, but I think the way how he captains his team, maybe the way how it worked. Mind you, um, the other two matches were won under Sami, but his portrayal of a captain to me shows that he is always willing to get the job done. If I have it wrong, you can correct me. What would you say the outcome may look like with this team we have now?
With the team we have now, like everybody else, they have a chance to win the World Cup. The thing about cricket is like any other thing, cricket is on the day, and it's about who shows up on the day, who wants it more, who's willing to fight, who's willing to put in that extra dive, who's willing to, you know, digging when things are tough. Because You can always look on paper and have your favorites, and you come down the line to who will be your quote unquote dark horses, outside chances, less favored to win, etc. And West Indies probably find themselves smack dab in the middle between favorites and less favored to win. Um, it will be unfair to call them dark horses simply because of who they have in their side. The thing about it is that West Indies are feared as a T20 country, as a T20 nation of cricketers, simply because of the fact that you never know who will show up. With West Indies, either somebody shows up or nobody shows up. That is it. But as long as somebody shows up, then you have a contest on your hands. You have 200 runs on the board. So with that said, they have a very realistic chance of qualifying for the next stage and lifting the cup. But it will all come down to the performances on the day, and that's just something that can't be predicted. But based on who is there in the squad, West Indies have a very good chance of winning again.
Right. Once they show up and perform. Well, I'm backing my maroon men as usual. Lose or win, I'm always there backing them because, as far as I'm concerned, they represent the whole of the Caribbean. And if we can't get to those destinations, because I've never been to Dubai. Have you been to Dubai?
Unfortunately, not. But one of these days, I hope to be there.
Yeah, me too. So what I'm saying is they're going to places that we have not been able to put our foot on. And when they hear West, when you go to anywhere in the world and hear West Indies, of course, the first thing you think about is Sir Gary Sobers. So at least we're respected, as you said earlier, in
Very
this
much so.
sport. Now, having touched on that, the last thing I really want to touch on is Vidor Manin as the speaker and presenter. He's laughing. Now, tell us a bit about what that entails, what you do now that you still play a bit of cricket now and again, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah, there's still a bit of cricket involved there as it relates to interviews and that kind of stuff. But in terms of the speaker presenter, it's just me talking for a living. It's what pays the bills. But yeah, so pre-COVID, it was a case of um, doing radio PR, a case of hosting shows, emceeing pageants, interviewing people at different things, like for example, crop over, that kind of stuff. So that was essentially the presenting part of it, and then the speaker part of it was a case of people hiring me to talk on, especially things like personal branding. That is something that, oh look, that's me there, my website, wowzers. Um, but yeah, a case because over the years I've developed a presentation on personal branding. So knowing your brand, knowing why your brand exists, investing in your brand, selling your brand. And over the years, people have hired me to come and speak on that topic as it relates to either their organization, their school, etc. So that's the speaking aspect of it.
Hmm. And when you do this, when I notice that you do a lot of you do ads as well. I notice you do some ads, but you do motivational presentations as well because you talk about schools.
Yeah. I guess you can call them motivational presentations. But yeah, so it's a case whereby, for example, I've done stuff with Queen's College. I've done stuff with the Ministry of Education, a couple other entities whereby essentially I'm just going to help challenge, especially young men. I get hired especially to talk to young men, really about just seeing life as opportunity. Going right back to the beginning, and you're not seeing life as where you might be situated, but seeing life as a chance to be who you want to be and to shape your path, regardless of whatever the people around you are telling you, whatever your circumstances are telling you. So yeah, I guess you can call it motivational as well.
Well, I want to tell you, Joel, you have always been there to me. You might not think so, but you've always been there to me because we met, as I said, some years back. And I have always, always admired you and the way in which you carry yourself. It shows me that you have modeled yourself in a positive way. And on our show, we always recognize our guests as a star. And we don't wait to offer or honor the star. We give you that star on our show because you have contributed to society as well as to the community. And I want to take this time, if nobody else has done it before, but to thank you. And we are grateful for what you're doing. It may seem small, but to us, it's something big because you're not only doing something that you love, but you're taking it somewhere else and sharing that knowledge and experience with others. So, Joelle, I want to continue to, you know, bless you, thank you. I know that we love you deep down and continue to pray for you and ask the Lord to protect you wherever you go. And I hope that whatever goals you aspire further in whatever you're doing, I am hoping to see you more at the crease and on television soon because don't forget my eyes are on you. I'm still following you wherever you may go. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I want to tell those folks out there, remember, wear your mask, sanitize, social distance, pick up the phone and call someone. Let them know how much you love them and you're thinking about them. And remember, with us, we're always people here. God bless, and we hope to see you next week. Hit the wrong fellow.